This video is a definitive and experiential review of the Sony LinkBuds S and a comparison with their Sony WF-1000 XM4s, the Apple AirPods Pro, and the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro, all from the perspective of an audio engineer. Because of that, I bring over 15 years of audio engineer experience and equipment to give you an immersive and experiential review where you'll be able to hear the comparative differences between all these earbuds. We'll do that by listening to a variety of different styles of music, as well as examples of noise cancellation, transparency, microphones, and more. If you've ever watched my headphone reviews and comparisons like the one I did on the Sony WH-1000 XM5, you know that I often use these $2,000 ears to get high quality recordings of headphones. Well, the ears work quite great for headphones, but they weren't quite cutting it for me for earbuds. So I constructed this $3,000 rig with high quality, expensive microphones, my goodness, but they cover the entire human hearing range. That means you can better hear how each earbud sounds and performs. For this video, you'll want to make sure that you're wearing headphones or earbuds in both ears in order to have the best experience for this video. So go ahead, pause, and make sure you put them on now before we continue. Okay, let's discover what an experiential and immersive review is by listening to this first track. You'll see which earbud you're listening to by looking at the label up top. This track is filled with a lot. Listen to the sub-frequencies, the high-end from the snare and hi-hat type sounds, and the mid-range from the synth. Just an FYI, you'll be able to see what the genre is of each song and find your way around this video easily because I have chapters enabled in the description alongside links to purchase anything mentioned in this video. Sitting a step above the $179 donut-shaped Sony LinkBuds and a step below the $279 Sony WF-1000 XM4s, the $200 Sony LinkBuds S are technically the smallest ANC-enabled earbuds out on the market. When I initially saw their ladybug-looking design, I thought, wow, that's way smaller than the huge Sony earbud design that we usually see from them. It also made me think of the Google Pixel Buds A series, which have been the most comfortable pair of earbuds I've personally used that also feel secure. And you know what? They do actually feel extremely comfortable, but with a bit more of an ear tip snugness to it. That's not bad. Unfortunately though, it's just thick enough, for me at least, that I can't rest my head on a pillow without feeling a little bit uncomfortable, unlike what happens on the Pixel Buds A series, which I just don't feel. Outside of that, both the earbuds and the case have a kind of grippy texture and feel to it that's closer to, but not quite sandpaper-like, compared to something soft touch like on the XM4s or Galaxy Buds Pro, or the fingerprint-prone slimy gloss of the AirPods Pro case. Unfortunately, it lacks wireless charging, which all the other cases have, which is especially disappointing when it's so common and at a list price of $200. The case is a little bit bigger than the AirPods Pro case and the Galaxy Buds Pro case, but definitely much smaller than the XM4 case. Alright, let's listen to this next sample. In this one, listen to the low end, the reverb from the vocals and the snare, and the sharpness of the hi-hat, and this is really important, especially for this comparison. Listen to the stereo spread from the wah-wah sounds and let me know what you notice in the comments. The XM4s feel massive in comparison to all the other earbuds, but it does have a design that will still work with more ears compared to the Galaxy Buds Pro, which has a stem that I've heard is just too big for those with smaller ear canals. The AirPods Pro are fascinatingly unassuming in the sense that you don't really feel them much, so they're extremely comfortable, but they also make you worry about them falling out of your ears. I will say that the AirPods Pro do manage to stay in your ears well, but the Sony XM4s and the LinkBuds S definitely feel the most premium, secure, and like they won't fall out. The Galaxy Buds Pro though feel the least secure to me, especially when I'm working out and feeling a little bit sweaty. At the end of the day, no ear is the same, so it's best to try them out for yourself. Speaking of sweat, all these have the bare minimum IPX4 water resistance rating, with the exception of the Galaxy Buds Pro, which has an IPX7 rating. And I just wish all earbuds had at least an IPX7 rating, just like in case it rains, or you're that person that likes to keep your earbuds in when you take a shower. So, I mean, like, no judgment from me if that's you. Okay, for this track, it's a very mid-rangey, warm, and soulful track. Listen to her vocals, the electric guitar lines, and keyboard. Interactions on the LinkBuds S are quite similar to all the other earbuds in the sense that you can just tap or squeeze if you're on the AirPods Pro, and it'll go between play and pause, move between tracks, and go between transparency mode or ANC mode. On everything but the AirPods Pro, you also have the ability to change your settings so that you can adjust your volume up or down with a touch gesture. The downside of that is whenever you change it to volume up or down, you lose something else, like being able to go forward or backwards in your tracks. Much like the AirPods Pro case, you also get a physical button, which is really nice, so you can easily go into pairing mode instead of fumbling around trying to figure out how to go into pairing mode with whatever random method for the XM4 or the Galaxy Buds Pro. They also support quick pair abilities like Android Quick Pair, or for the AirPods Pro, you have their own quick pair feature for iOS. Unlike all the others, the LinkBuds S do not independently connect to your device, so you must use the right earbud in order to use the left earbud. This is just tragic news for those who like to wear one earbud at a time, and it's one of the big reasons why I don't use my favorite sounding earbuds, the AKG N400s, more often. Again, this is really painful for a $200 set of earbuds. On the LinkBuds S, you can by default hold down on the left earbud to temporarily go into transparency mode, which is really helpful if you need to talk to someone real quick or use their speak to chat feature. As a whole, Sony has told me that they wanted to make these a lot like the open earbud LinkBuds, but they do this through the transparency mode instead of a donut hole design. We'll explore how well they pull off transparency later. For this song, pay attention to the clarity of the attack of the acoustic guitar strings, but how forward the mid-range is in the body of the guitar, and especially the vocals. Pay attention to whether the vocals feel like they're forward or if they're buried in the mix.
When the nights get cold, sometimes when I look over, I see you by a fire with your hands out in the open, and I wonder if you're singing autumn song, or if I'm singing all alone. I must be singing on my own.
Active noise cancellation, or ANC, feels a bit like a buzzword within the headphone and earbud industry, and not all of them are actually all that great and don't do much other than somewhat lower the volume of what's happening around you. That's to say that they're not doing really all that much that's better than passively plugging your ear with something. Sony, on the other hand, has quite the reputation for having fantastic noise cancellation, at least with the 1000XM lineup. So the question is, do the LinkBuds S live up to the reputation? Well, let's listen for ourselves and find out how it stacks up against the competition with some white noise. I've even included some frequency graphs so you can see how each earbud handles ANC. Who do you think did it best? Let me know in the comments. I think it's really interesting to see how each of the earbuds prioritize different frequencies or ranges for noise cancellation, and I think it's clear that the XM4s and the AirPods Pro cancel out the most, but the XM4s are the only ones that didn't struggle with canceling out the 5K to 10K frequency range, and in turn, whatever it lets through sounds pretty natural, but mid-range focused. But let's see how they do with canceling out deep sub-frequencies and lows. Again, the XM4s and AirPods Pro do the best, and they're pretty close, but different in how they do it. I will say that the LinkBuds S do let a bit through, but whatever bleeds through manages to sound pretty natural, just like the XM4s. The Galaxy Buds Pro did have a lot of that cavern pressure on the ears when trying to cancel out the low end, so keep that in mind if your ears are sensitive to that like mine. But which one do you think did it better, and how do you feel the LinkBuds S did for all the ANC tests? For this song, it has a lot of great reverb going on. Listen to how forward the vocals sound, and if you can hear much of the percussive instruments in the background, or if they sound really buried. This is where the mid-range can really bring out some instruments. The bass guitar is also one of my favorite parts of this song. Now, Sony told me that these are a continuation in the thought process of the donut-shaped LinkBuds, which sought to have an open back design to make it so you can clearly hear your surroundings and not feel closed off. So they designed these to have a good transparency mode with speak to chat features that can automatically move between ANC and transparency mode just by talking. So does it do it well? Well, let's hear some samples to find out. This is what the ambient sound sounds like on the Sony LinkBuds S. Now, you have the option to focus on the voice, so we'll tap on that. And this is what it sounds like when I'm focusing on the voice. We can uncheck that. And there's even a granular option to adjust the ambient sound. And this is it all the way to maximum transparency. How does it sound? Now, this is what it would sound like if you were in transparency mode using the Apple AirPods Pro and you were just hearing me talk to you. And it even has a little bit of a stereo effect to it, which is kind of interesting. And much like the Sony LinkBuds S, the Sony WF-1000XM4s also have an ambient mode that is quite stereo-like. It also has the ability to focus on the voice. So now let's focus on the voice. How does this sound like? Is it any better? We can turn that off, and we can adjust the ambient sound down to 1, all the way back up to 20. So the maximum transparency. How does it sound? And this is what the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro would sound like if I was in transparency mode. It also has a bit more of that stereo effect. There's also a setting where you can emphasize your voice. So let's turn that on and see what it sounds like. So now we have voice detect on. Does that sound any better if I were to talk to you and you were wearing the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro? It's important to know that all of these earbuds, with the exception of the AirPods Pro, have a kind of a speak to chat feature where it automatically moves between that ANC and transparency mode. I do notice that both the Sonys are quite reliable, fast and clean, with the XM4s having an ever so pleasant chime when it activates. The app even has the ability to control how long it stays open, so you can have it open for a short period of time or longer, whatever your preference is. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find a way to record this speak to chat feature, but the transparency would be the same as what we just heard, but automatically activated. But here's something that's interesting. You can actually tell how natural the transparency is by listening to a song through the earbuds. So let's see how it sounds.
The sun is going down. Your skin is like a painting. Light is perfect now. I can feel it changing. Kids are probably soon. Don't get me wrong, I'm ready. I know what to do when we're no longer two. When us means more than me and you.
Videos like these require over 40 hours of work and requires thousands and thousands of dollars of equipment. So if you want to say thanks, we have super thanks enabled on the channel that allows you to click on it and simply make a donation, and your comment will stand out really clearly so I can thank you. Thanks to all of you who support me through that by clicking links in the description and checking out our video sponsors. This is a track from my personal friend Hannah Parrott. Listen to how dynamic the track sounds, and if you can hear all the layers from the horns to the various strings and the melodic percussion instruments. Now let's test out the microphones and the call quality experience. We'll actually throw in the normal LinkBuds as well for mic samples, since these have some really great reviews for the mic. And to help financially support videos like these while providing you the value you're looking for while saving you time, I'll test out the mics while telling you about Masterworks. If you're like me and you're feeling not only the pain of inflation, but the pain that comes from looking at your stock portfolio and seeing the red of stocks constantly falling more and more every day, you're probably wondering where you can even put money where it doesn't lose value to inflation and has a history of past performance. What's crazy is that Masterworks talked to me a couple months ago and gave me this article from JP Morgan that said that traditional investing in stocks and bonds over the next few years would be quite poor. And I thought that was crazy And yeah, here we are. They were right, and it doesn't feel like it's getting any better. So what's the solution? Well, JP Morgan said it's essential for investors to embrace alternative investments going forward. Something like contemporary blue chip art, which has outperformed the S&P 500 by 164% for the past 26 years, and is known to perform better during periods of inflation. Masterworks democratizes the ability to make investments in art from artists like Banksy, Andy Warhol, and Keith Haring. So it's not just for rich billionaires who have been doing this for years, but for you and me. They sold 3 paintings since 2017, each returning over 30% internal rate of return to investors. You can even buy and sell on their secondary market if you want, so get diversified and sign up for Masterworks. There's currently a waitlist to sign up, but with my code you can skip the waitlist and start investing today. Thanks to Masterworks for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now that's great and all to have a mic test in a quiet room, but let's make it challenging. Now here's what the LinkBuds, the donuts, how they would sound like if you were in a busy cityscape environment that's about 80 to 85 decibels. I can really hear everything around it. It's pretty wild, but how well do I sound? And this is what the Sony LinkBuds S would sound like if you were making a video call or phone call and you're in a very busy cityscape area at about 80 to 85 decibels. How's it sound? And here is what the Sony WF-1000XM4s would sound like if we're making a phone call or video call, and you're listening to me, and I'm in a busy cityscape at about 80 decibels to 85 decibels. How's it sound? And this is what the microphone would sound like if you're talking over the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro and there happens to be a whole bunch of stuff going on around a cityscape at 80 decibels, 85 decibels. And this is what the Apple AirPods Pro would sound like if you were making a call or talking amongst a very busy city soundscape at around 80 decibels to 85 decibels. I gotta say, both of the LinkBuds models have some really phenomenal microphones, especially in busy and noisy environments, but what do you think? This is what it would sound like if you were to receive a phone call and you were using and wearing the Sony LinkBuds S. This is what it would sound like if you were to receive a phone call and you're wearing the Sony WF-1000XM4s. And yes, all of these are over an HD phone call. This is what it would sound like if you're to receive a phone call and you're wearing the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro. And this is what it would sound like if you were to receive a phone call and you're wearing the Apple AirPods Pro on an iPhone. For this track, listen to how clear the bass guitar is on the track, as well as the electric guitar and how bright the cymbals are in this track.
Hey, hey,
Now, if you watch my review of the Sony WH-1000XM5s, you know that in that Bluetooth distance test, I tested out distance outside, and they were all pretty much the same with the exception of the XM4s, which got a little bit further away. But in the comments for that video, someone wanted me to see how far I would go inside of an office or house with doors and hallways. Well, I tried all these earbuds in my house, ran across it, down a hallway, and into my room, and really all of them died off right before I reached my room, with the exception of the AirPods Pro and Sony WF-1000XM4s, which maybe had a meter more of distance. That means that they're pretty much all the same. So I wouldn't base your buying decision based upon Bluetooth distance. What may be of interest to you though is that all these earbuds, with the exception of the AirPods Pro, support LDAC on an Android device. This is a high quality codec and is something to consider if you can actually hear that quality difference in. As a whole, I think they're all pretty much a wash for Bluetooth. Now for this track, it's a really awesome one that is kind of like a rock and roll one, but like kind of more dramatic and cinematic. Pay attention to the sub frequencies for how tight it sounds, and then the mid-range and the high end to see how clear it is and how wide the sound stage feels. For gaming, it's generally pretty ugly for any sort of Bluetooth device, but you know, let's look at all of them real quick to make sure.
Reloading.
We're already off to a bad start, but the Samsung Galaxy Pro does have a setting to turn on low latency gaming mode if you're on a Samsung device, and it does get better. But the real star of the show is the Apple AirPods Pro that has fantastic low latency on the iPhone. I guess if you need to use earbuds for gaming, use the AirPods on an iOS device, which is really ironic since gaming in Apple isn't really much of a thing unless you're on a mobile device. Anyways, this track is an arena stomper that has some percussive low end and some broad frequency ranges covering the high mids and highs that will surely make the high end differences between each of these earbuds really obvious. Now you're probably thinking, Brandon, which one should I buy? And it really depends on the variety of factors. But you can be sure that whatever you end up buying, it really helps support the channel if you click the links in the description when you do it. The best way to help you determine which to purchase is by considering the following different points. If you care a lot about comfort, then consider the AirPods Pro or Sony LinkBuds S. If you have small ear canals, do not get the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro. If you're deep in the Apple ecosystem and like having something that easily moves between devices, consider the AirPods Pro. If you'd like to wear one earbud at a time, choose anything but the Sony LinkBuds S. If you want fantastic microphones, consider the LinkBuds S. If you want the best transparency mode, go with the Apple AirPods Pro or the Sony LinkBuds S. If you want the best ANC, go with the Sony WF-1000 XM4s or the Apple AirPods Pro for second place. If you want the best water resistance, go with the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro. If you want wireless charging, choose anything but the Sony LinkBuds S. If you want the best sound quality, well, I personally would go with the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro or the Sony WF-1000 XM4s. Now, you've probably noticed that I haven't told you too many of my preferences throughout this video because, well, I just want to present some samples to you as objectively as possible and then have you make your own decisions. That's because a lot of things regarding sound can be a personal preference, and the things that you may prioritize may not be the things I don't prioritize as much. So I prefer giving you the points to consider to make the decision that's the right fit for you rather than forcing my preferences on you. Now, if you want to know my preferences, I'll tell you right after we listen to the song. This song has a killer bass line to it. Pay attention to that, the synth, and the vocal reverb. Now as for my preferences, I gotta say, this is actually really hard. All the points that matter to me are spread out kind of evenly amongst all the different earbuds. So maybe it's better for me to go down the list of what would eliminate each model for me first and then make my way down the lineup. So the first earbud that I would eliminate is the AirPods Pro. While they're comfortable and have great ANC, I'm not a big fan of their sound. I actually hate how it automatically switches between different devices often when I don't want it to, and it's really only great if you're on an Apple device. And I switch around a lot, so having a platform agnostic option makes sense for me, at least personally. The next one I would eliminate is the Sony LinkBuds S. The sound isn't anything particularly exciting for me. It leaves a lot to be desired and is really hard to EQ well to get a sound that I like, which explains why I haven't provided a custom EQ for this video. Couldn't get one that I felt I was happy with and wanted to put out there. And while I absolutely love its small, comfortable design and outstanding microphones, I simply cannot use a pair of earbuds that cannot allow me to use one earbud at a time, whether it's the right or left earbud. I know its transparency mode is great, but sometimes you don't want something in your ear all the time, or you like to extend the battery life for things like podcasts. I guess no one can say that I give Sony positive reviews just because they send something to me for free. The next one I would eliminate is the Sony WF-1000 XM4s. While these have some really good sound, they have a very narrow soundstage that does make it feel closed off for me, and I just have a hard time getting around that. If I was to go traveling though, I just might take these with me to take advantage of their insanely good ANC, but I'd also second guess it because they're pretty big and the least comfortable of the bunch. And that leaves me with the Samsung Galaxy Galaxy Buds Pro. They have a sound quality and sound stage that I continually come back to and absolutely love, and on the default EQ setting at that. It's really hard for me not to prioritize sound the most, and it's not because I'm an audio engineer, it's because that's what I use them for the most, to listen to things. Everything else comes after it, but I do wish I had the ANC of the XM4s, the mics of the LinkBuds S, and the transparency of the AirPods Pro. But hey, you can't always get what you want, but if you want to get what you need, make sure to get it with the links in the description. So what do you think about this immersive and experiential review? Let me know your thoughts and what you'd like to see in future reviews like this and how I can improve them. Let me know which earbuds you prefer and make sure to purchase them by clicking the links in the description or right here. Also go check out these other videos of mine about audio, especially the one on the Sony WH-1000 XM5s. It's really awesome. By the way, Sony did provide the Sony LinkBuds S to me for this review, but they did not pay me, nor do they have any say or input for this review and are seeing it at the same time as you. Thanks for watching This Is Tech Today. Until next time.